Hello everyone. Today I'm going to do something a bit different. Today I want to talk about the famous translations of Persian poetry that exists in the English language. I believe you are all familiar with these inspirational quotes of Rumi, for example, or Hafiz. These are from the works of an American translator called Coleman Barks. Well, there are a lot of controversies regarding this situation of the translations that he has brought forth, mainly because they are not per se translation. They are rather rewritten or retranslated of previous works. For this reason, this is not not accepted in the Persian community as an actual translation because they do not represent the truth of the lines, or they're kind of dumbed down versions or very new agey as they are called mostly. The main problem with this and issue with this is because Coleman Parks doesn't speak Persian at all. He just uses the previous late 19th, early 20th century translations of Rumi poetry of, for example, Nicholson. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to read you one of the poems that he has translated or retranslated and try to kind of tell you what is problem with it, or what can be a better attitude towards this situation. So this poem is a quadrant of Rumi. Again, it's only 4 lines long and it's quite short. از کفر و ز اسلام برون صحرایی است، ما را به میان آن فضا سودایی است. عارف چو بدان رسید سر را بنهد، نه کفر و نه اسلام و نه آنجا جایی است. This is the Coleman Barks translation of this. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in the grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. Now I'm going to give you my translation of this poem. I've tried not to be so much poetical about this or rhythmic, but rather trying to translate all of the words, do not leave anything out or add anything extra, and try to tell you what actually the poem is trying to say. Outside heresy and Islam, a desert exists. Within us, towards that space, an urge exists. As the sage reaches that, forgoes the head. No heresy, no Islam, and no there exists. So, at first glance, you can see the main difference between the lines is that Coleman Barks has removed heresy and Islam and put wrongdoing and right doing. The reason for this, as he has said, is that he doesn't like, so to say, religious words. Words that are referencing to a religious story or the concept of God or any kind of religious context. And he said he just doesn't like it, and that's why it's called New Agey, because that's what New Age and New Spirituality is, trying to use the ideas that are in the religious texts as a spiritual and psychological way of looking at the world and having a better experience in it. So, one of the reasons that this has become a problem is exactly that this is kind of Orientalism or contextualization of the Persian poetry in a way that the United States culture can understand or accept, because Islam is not that well accepted or appreciated outside of Middle East in general. So uh, another thing that Coleman Barks has done is that he has tried to fill in the gaps of the precise lines of the poem and to create a kind of story, a kind of visual thing, which is mostly a trope in the English poetry, or at least the New Age vibes, that they just try to create everything all together. But in the Persian poetry, it's not that. It's there are empty lines in between. There are things that you have to figure out yourself, or someone like me tell you about it. But having the actual experience of reading this poem with all of its missing points is part of the whole Persian poetry reading. So in the translation that I've given you, uh, it describes a kind of state of existing outside believing in Islam or believing in kufr, which is heresy, which is that no God exists. Also, it can be reference to the fact anything other than Islam is mentioned here, something that is so vile and it's so dark that you cannot even touch in that manner. So, this idea of outside heresy and outside Islam is actually kind of close to beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing. And our urge of being there is in the second verse, the second line, that we are all kind of trying to reach that place. We have this urge of going there, of doing the right thing and doing the wrong thing in one sense, and also in being a good Muslim, not doing things that are not God worthy. That's also another meaning of kufr, something that you do, for example, sin, basically, lying or cheating or stealing, things that we do, whether or not we are human, we are full of error. That's why we have this urge in the between place, because we cannot ever reach Islam and be a great Muslim, because that's impossible for our earthly human bodies, and not be a completely human person, human thing that only just lives and then dies and cheats and whatever they like. So we have this urge of going into that place. And then Coleman Barks adds some things like the grass, or I will meet you there, or let's go there. Because what the poem actually says is that a sage gets to go there. A sage reaches that place. And that sage is a person who is on a spiritual path. Coleman Barks could have used someone like as you reach there, or as us, the travelers of reaching that place, go there, because it's something that needs devotion to get there. You can't just get there. It's something which is quite difficult. And one of the main things that can help you get there is again in the poem, which is foregoing the head. Foregoing the head means both stopping, well, in an actual sense, means to give up the head or sacrifice the head, or be like, okay, I will give you my head in order to reach that place. That's what the poem is trying to say. So, and this actually means that both sacrificing your life, because if you give your head, you will die, basically, of course. So, first, you must have to let go of your earthly body and life and be willing to completely let go of everything that you have here and just die. And also to stop using the mind, letting go of your thoughts, or in the more new agey way, meditation. Do not say anything, not have any thoughts, and just be and just exist. That is the place, the field beyond wrongdoing and right doing, or the desert beyond Islam and heresy. It's this place, the place of meditation, where you're not thinking about anything because you have foregone the head. And then Coleman Barks says, when we get there, we just get there. He doesn't mention when we are get there. He just says it's too full to talk about because we cannot talk about it. But first, you must not be able to talk about it, so that then you reach it. Which means first you must be completely silent and meditation until you get there. And then, when you get there, there is no heresy, there is no Islam, and there's not even a there. That place doesn't even exist. Because, again, from this point, I am trying to, say the things in the line. Uh, and what I'm saying is coming from the other works of Rumi, like the combination of the culture and the worldview and ideology of Rumi dictates, like it says about these moments. This place has been mentioned in previous poems or other poems. This place, when you reach it, then no existence exists. You are complete point of consciousness and being. You are God. And when you are God, this world doesn't exist anymore. When you are dead, this world doesn't exist anymore. So in again another complete way of looking at the poem is that when you die, you will go into a new place which no wrongdoing or right doing exists. So these are all of the different things that can be said about this poem. And then Coleman Barks has watered it down into this really new agey kind of way of saying it. So now that I've mentioned this poem, I want to talk about my view on this, on the fact that what Coleman Barks is doing. So I chose this poem because it's one of the most famous ones. It's so famous that Brad Pitt has it tattooed on his arm, and so and it also has the word Islam in it. So it's really controversial that this is taken away, and a lot of Middle Easterns and Islam studies and all of these places that are trying to stop colonialism or cultural colonialism or racism in all of this, they have said this is a kind of trying to appropriate Middle Eastern culture so that the American culture can understand or the world culture can kind of accept it in a way it is. But it should not be like that. This is not right. We have to talk about everything that is in our culture and should be able to present it as the way it is, not try to sugarcoat it in a sense. So, and that is completely true. I understand all of this, and I also used to uh, condemn Coleman Barks and also talk to everyone that this is all wrong translations and you should not do this. And one day I want to remove all of them from libraries, but then my ideas changed a bit since I started to read Rumi. As I started to read Rumi, read the more, and I started to understand what it is, it completely made sense. And once I wrote a line that changed everything for me, and I understood a bigger picture. And that was the line that Coleman Barks said. One day, no, not day, one night, I was sleeping and I had a dream in which Rumi came and told me that write translations of my poems so that everyone can know about me. And then that was when Coleman Barks started to write all of these retranslations. Well, this can be completely fabricated. This is something that, there is no proof of this on any level, and it cannot justify the thing that Coleman Barks has done. But another fact adds to this, and then we can come to a better conclusion, and that is Rumi is the number one selling poem in the United States. Not Walt Whitman, not other poems of the English language or the American culture. They are not the best selling. Rumi is the best selling. An Iranian, a Muslim. And this is the magic of Rumi, because Rumi is also one of the most important poems in Iran and also in the US, the two countries that are at fight with each other the most in the world. How can this one poet be the best poet of these both cultures, these two countries? So this made me this idea that Coleman Barks made this happen. He made this happen. He made Rumi in a sense that can be a bridge between cultures. And then I realized this is not a bad thing. This is exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying to bring you the Persian poetry in a way that you enjoy it in another form, not only translation, not only just reading it, but showing it to you in the way that I can. And that's what Coleman Barks did. He was in love with Rumi, as Rumi is love itself. Rumi is preaching love. So I believe we should have a better look at the translations that are out there of Rumi, and anyone who is getting interested and more interested should be able to understand it more. And other content like the one that I'm creating should be made more and more and more of what Rumi wants to say, because what Rumi says is so profound and so beautiful that it just needs us to just go beyond Islam or heresy or wrongdoing or right doing or retranslation and translation, and meet each other there as the sages that we have been and coming there, and just let go of our heads and let go of all of our talks and thoughts.